In our personal phase of self-development, people are learning how to have connection and closeness in relationship at the same time as how to maintain a sense of self, autonomy, at the exact same time. What this means is that people struggle a lot between these two polarized forms of pain, one being enmeshment, which is the loss of self, and the other being isolation, which is loss of connection and closeness with others. Now, because of this struggle, people become incredibly confused and also find it very hard to see themselves and what they're doing or not doing clearly. This is especially true when a person has experienced either trauma, enmeshment, being loss of self, or isolation, loss of connection with others. But today, I'm going to expose a pattern to you that tends to crop up in people who have suffered from trauma relative to enmeshment. Autonomy, having a sense of self versus other, is an important part of physical existence for a person within a social group. So is a sense of closeness and connection. What people need is to be able to have themselves and have other people too at the same time. To understand more about this, watch my video titled The Freedom/Connection Split Within Humanity. Enmeshment essentially does not allow for you to have a sense of self while being in connection or closeness with other people at the same time. In an enmeshed relationship, there's no recognition or acceptance of actual boundaries. Of course, I need you to remember that a boundary is nothing more than an imaginary line that defines your unique thoughts, feelings, desires, needs, preferences from the rest of the universe. Therefore, in an enmeshed relationship, it means that, if you're the one that's enmeshed, the other person does not actually recognize or accept or even see your unique feelings, thoughts, preferences, aversions, desires, anything that uniquely defines you. In fact, differentiating yourself implies that there's going to be a consequence. So, what you choose to do in this type of a relationship is you either choose to give yourself up, or you choose those consequences. You have to face them. In other words, you either choose to face those consequences, or in order to maintain harmony in the relationship and closeness, you have to give yourself up and mirror the other person so that your thoughts, feelings, needs, and desires and truth and choices are either the same as theirs or what they want them to be. Another way of saying this is, you comply. If you would like to understand enmeshment in a more in-depth way, I strongly encourage you to watch my video titled How to Heal Family Enmeshment Trauma. Long story short, so many people that are alive today don't actually believe it's possible to have a strong sense of themselves at the same time as being closely connected to other people. What they believe is that they either have to give themselves up and comply in order to get that closeness, or in order to have a sense of self, they have to rebel against other people. What all this adds up to is that so many people alive today are caught in this pendulum swing between compliance and rebellion. Now, what we know about these pendulum swings, any of you who may have watched my video that I did on the pendulum swing and healing, is that any one of these pendulum swing extremes creates dysfunction. So both is an unhealthy extreme. Conformity, resistance, okay? The thing to understand is that neither of these states are healthy. Neither of these states are free, and neither of these states are empowered. So many people simply give themselves up to have a relationship with someone. So many people spend their life in the disempowered state of rebellion, imagining themselves to finally be empowered when in reality, in a state of rebellion, their life is still controlled by the same person they tried to break free from. So that you can better understand what I mean, I'm going to give you an actual example. A woman grew up in a house with a verbally abusive, dictatorial father who would slap her across the face for disobedience. This little girl, when she was growing up, learned that there was no room for personal boundaries in the household. The only way she was going to be able to get her own needs met and to stay safe was to obey and to comply. Another way of putting this is the only way to actually thrive in this environment is to become the pleaser and to please this man. This woman spent her life complying, and as a result, suffering from all of the different things that come along with enmeshment trauma. Then she hit a breaking point. Essentially, she hit a point where she decided to rebel against her father. She put her foot down, and as a result, she was disowned. Now, when she was disowned by her father, she got something and she lost something. What she lost was all the needs that were being met through the connection and through that sense of belonging that she got being part of the family and part of his life. There's a lot more needs where that comes from. What she gained was a sense of herself, a sense of having a boundary for the first time. Now, that actually felt empowering. But obviously, this whole experience of being disowned by dad as a result of, essentially having a boundary, having a sense of self, created very real trauma. She transferred this entire traumatic experience onto the next authority figure, the government. She spent her life politically fixated. Anytime there was a rally to attend, she went to it, determined to stick it to the man. To her, this felt empowering and definitely made her feel a strong sense of selfhood. But from a higher perspective, she was still completely controlled by her father. Her life had first been lived for him, and then had been lived against him. In essence, her entire life was about him. Therefore, he was always the one in control of her life. But because rebellion feels so much more empowered than compliance, people fail to see that when they're in the state of rebellion, they're every bit as disempowered and enmeshed as when they were complying. And they fail to realize that dedicating your life to being against someone or something is a recipe for suffering. If you feel that you fall into the risk category relative to this pattern, then I want you to start to live by one question. Am I complying or am I rebelling? From there, I want you to make whatever situation that you're in not about the other person at all. Meaning, I want you to take them out of the equation. Imagine there was no one or nothing there to comply with or push against. If you suddenly found yourself away from them in a vacuum of space and time, but aware of the situation, what are your personal feelings, your personal thoughts, your personal integrity, your personal desires, your personal needs, and therefore, most importantly, your personal truth? What are you for instead of against? What do you want instead of not want? What would you think, say, or do if there were no consequences in this scenario? This is the beginning of stepping into a place of free will within the context of relationships. And free will is not about compliance any more than free will is about rebellion. Free will is essentially about personal choice. Where people in society need to go is towards free will in relationships. This implies both autonomy and alignment at the same time. For this reason, it may benefit you to watch my video titled How to Create a Safe Relationship. A little known fact is that the actions that you will take as a result of being powerfully aware of what you are for are going to be completely different than the actions that you will take as a result of being consciously aware of what you are against. It is as important to establish a sense of self that is not dependent on opposition in order to exist, as it is to establish connection that is not dependent on compliance or obedience. True empowerment and true freedom do not lie in either extreme of compliance or of rebellion. Your life does not have to be reduced to nothing more than a reaction to other people. Step into a genuine form of empowerment, truth, and freedom instead. Have a good week. If you liked this video, be sure to share it, like it, and also subscribe to my channel so you can see more content like this. But I want to personally thank you for taking the initiative and having the bravery to step into the space of awareness, not only for yourself, but for the benefit of those around you.